The move from the MU2 to the Phenom was not difficult at all from a stick and rudder standpoint. In fact, was easier, much easier. The biggest issue for me in flying this jet aircraft over anything I've ever flown before is I can fly over all the weather. And realistically, if I can't fly over the weather at 41,000 feet, I ought to stay home, and which is what I do. Or I'll fly 100 miles out of the way, because flying 100 miles out of the way is not so bad when you're going 370 knots. If I was going to talk to a pilot who's going to transition from an airplane, a prop airplane, even an RVSM capable airplane that can go into 30,000s, there's a really big difference between 28 and 41. And the difference is you don't get banged around up there, or it's very much more easily avoided. So if we're looking for dispatch reliability, and that's what we're trying to do, this is a business tool. We're trying to make our appointments. We're trying to have a very high percentage of dispatch. You really only need to worry about where the weather is when you take off and where it is when you land, because you can fly over most anything. You can't say that about anything other than a fan jet. And you know, people ask, well, what's the biggest difference? That's the biggest difference. The biggest difference is you clear the weather. I flew my Phenom over a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I talked to the FAA about it beforehand, but we went right over to the top of a hurricane. He said, hey, you must be able to see the eye. I said, yeah, it's right below me. It's really cool. It's a hurricane. If I was in any other airplane other than a fan jet, I'd have to go to Tennessee to get to Houston. But instead, I went from Naples to Houston straight over the top of the hurricane and never had an issue, never had a bump. Well, that's the advantage of flying a bigger airplane. Is it harder? Well, it is when you're learning. But after you get comfortable with the airplane, it's much easier to fly than certainly the last 3 or 4 airplanes I owned. I flew that airplane all around Alaska. I've also flown it to South America a couple of times. I've flown it to Europe. It's been a wonderful tool there. It's opened up my world. And it takes a pretty capable airplane to fly to South America or to fly to Europe, or even in Alaska if you're going to go the places where I was going. So yes, I've used it to do things I otherwise couldn't do, and I'm very happy about that.